do it in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Jason, and you no doubt know who Ethan is. And yeah, we're glad to see you. Thanks for joining us on GoBuilda TV. If you've been on our site at all this week, you no doubt know that we've launched several new products this week. We have new lengths of GoRail, new lengths of 1120 series U channel and 1121 series low side U channel. And of course, the mother load is the new FTC kit. So Ethan here is super amped up to go over all those things, especially the changes between the FTC kit from this season versus last season. And I will be your, I guess, comment and chat concierge, kind of keeping an eye on that and passing on questions to Ethan when he's ready. So with that, I pass it on to you, Ethan. Thanks.
Thank you. So make sure if you have any questions to tag us at GoBuilda TV in the chat, and Jason will be able to make sure that we get to your question. So we do have, like Jason talked about, a bunch of new lengths of 1120 and 1121 U channel. With that, we also have some 1109 Go rail that have new lengths. We really wanted to fill in the even number of hole lengths of channel. So 6, 8, 10, 12. We filled in everywhere from 6 to 18 holes, barely in the 18-inch cube for FTC people, but still technically within that space if you want to use that. So that's a lot of fun. We've got a lot of those new lengths, and it also means you'll have a little more flexibility in a lot of your builds. One of my favorite is the 10 hole. This is super nice in a lot of chassis assemblies because that's pretty close to the maximum crossbeam you can get with a lot of the 6-wheel drive style of chassis. We also have equivalent in the 1121 series of low side U channel, and we have some additional lengths of Go rail as well, just to fill that in and make sure that you have a lot more flexibility in all of your builds. Of course, a big thing that I'm sure you guys are seeing in the chat is our giveaway. So everybody, every team who's watching today can win a free Gecko wheel. All you've got to do is be following. You'll have to type wheel in the chat, and our handy Streamlabs bot is posting a link. It's gobuilda.com/gobuildatv, and you'll be able to jump on there, complete your form, and you'll get an email with a lot of the details on getting your wheel. With those, I'll just talk a little bit about the Gecko wheels in case any of you guys possibly had missed our show last week. They are our new compliant wheel. They're a 30A silicon rubber on the outside with a nice hard plastic core with the GoBuilda pattern on the inside, and they are a 72 millimeter diameter. So they're really great for intakes and moving game elements within your robot especially. They're nice and squishy, and they're always a fun thing to just have around your desk and play with as well. So that's a lot of the new parts that we've released, kind of in anticipation of the FTC kit. We've rolled some of those parts into the FTC kit as well. I believe there's a new length of Go rail and some new channel lengths in there. So that is really exciting. My personal favorite part about the new FTC kit is, of course, the new box. Oh, not really. It's the 6-wheel drive chassis that we are including all of the parts necessary to create. So they give you a lot of different options for drivetrains you can make. Here I've got just kind of one half without a crossbeam, just to be able to talk a little bit better about the differences between all of the configurations that we show. So let's navigate over to that page on the GoBuilda website. There we go. We are in the FTC kits page and the master kit. So you notice the price is a little funky without your FTC discount. That does get you down to that really nice, just about $550 price range. It is a little higher than last year, but we are including a lot more components that are really tailored, designed to help create full robots out of the master kit. Where that was fairly difficult last year, I think this should make it a lot easier. A lot of our changes were geared, of course, toward those drivetrains. Here you can see this is the top-down view of one of the base drivetrains that we include. This is probably the simplest of the drivetrains. This has 2 motors driving 4 of the 6 wheels and no drop center or anything like that. This is my favorite drivetrain to build if you're just looking to conserve parts and keep a lot of the chain and sprockets and other parts like that for the rest of your robot. It's also nice because you can conserve those 2 motors. If you're hoping to build a robot with just 4 motors that come in the kits, you'll definitely won't want to use all of them on your chassis. The next one we can take a look at is just the bottom down view of that same chassis. So you've got sonic hubs and sprockets that are driving the back 4 wheels. Those are driven from 2 sets of gears. We can actually take a little bit closer look at this in real life. So you have got here 2 30-tooth gears, which create a 1-to-1 ratio from this 312 RPM gear motor. And then you've got 2 sprockets with some plastic chain that drives these 2 traction wheels really effectively, and it creates a really nice smooth running chassis. Of course, with that, you do only have 4 of these wheels powered, so it's not as great as having all of them powered. For example, there are some situations where you can end up getting only very good contact on 1 wheel and end up being beached. So this front omni wheel idling can be just fine in most cases, but every once in a while there's a situation where it's really nice to have this omni powered, and that can help a lot if you're just looking to create the most robust option out there. The next one we're looking at is a little more full. It has 6 wheels driven, so it's driving all of the wheels, and it's using all 4 motors in the kit. These are all that really nice 312 RPM, which leads just under 5 feet per second free speed, if I remember right. That is a really great balanced ratio, especially for 4 motor drives in FTC, really up until you hit that 40-pound mark. That's really the high end for FTC robots. So you've got these 2 runs of chain. The first run of chain is based on hub mount 14-tooth sprockets, and then the chain that's powering the front 2 wheels is based on 10-tooth set screw sprockets. So this does use pretty much all of the chain and I believe all of the sprockets in the kit. So it eats up all of those components, but it is really a very, very good chassis and something that's really competitive. The last option we show here is a very similar drivetrain to the last one, but with drop center plates. So drop center plates is a product that I had a lot of design input on and is one of my favorites, despite being one of our simplest. So let's see. It is a plate that you can see, we'll switch over to this view, right here. And it has the same 14 mil hole as you expect on channel, but it is offset 2 millimeters. This, then you will bolt that plate directly to the 1120 channel, and you get a really nice way to offset your drive shaft by 2 mil. This is most commonly used in what's called a dropped center chassis, where you're dropping the center wheel 2 millimeters. You can also raise the outer wheels because you can flip this plate around, and that gives you effectively a shorter wheelbase. So an FTC robot, the speed that you turn at is basically a ratio between your track length and your track width. So the length between the center of your 2 wheels that are in contact with the ground and the width between that. The shorter and wider your chassis is, the faster your turning ratio. So a chassis like this, if all 6 wheels were on the ground, would turn not quite as fast as if you totally removed this wheel, because then your wheel or your track length gets a lot shorter, while your track width remains the same. That's really what drop center does. It picks up one of the 6 wheels or 8 wheels in some circumstances in a chassis. It picks those off the ground and makes your effective track length just the distance between either your middle and your back or your middle and your front wheel. This really increases turning speed, and it can also decrease scrub just by not quite as much, but it can decrease scrub. So this chassis is really solid because you can increase your turning speed pretty easily. Now, some FTC games, you just don't need it. There are a lot of games where you don't turn around much, and a drop center does not help you a whole lot, but there are other games where you need to turn around every cycle, and that's where it can really help. I personally don't think I would do a drop center with an unpowered wheel like this, because you can be in situations where you only have one wheel powered on the ground. Not my favorite, but if you're powering all 6 wheels, that drop center is a great thing to play with. Jason, do we have any questions from the chat?
Yes, we do. Okay, so Jose Bobelli asks, is there an unboxing video of the FTC Master Kit? Go ahead.
There's not an unboxing video yet, but that would be really fun. We'll definitely have to take a look at that, and there's very possible that a team may buy it and do an unboxing video. I know we've seen that in the past too.
And just a few housekeeping notes on the free Gecko wheel promotion. Some people are asking if all team members should fill out the form, if there's 1 wheel per team, and also on the free shipping, if there's free shipping on the free wheel. And basically, to that last question, we've looked into it here real quick, and it's generally going to be $4 to $5 USPS on that. And what we're going to do is reach out to you and send you a code that you can use to get a free wheel on your next order.
Perfect. Really good.
And I think the goal is 1 per team.
1 per team. Yep. So that's really exciting. We're really, really happy to be able to get a lot more Gecko wheels out to you guys and start adding those to your FTC, just the list of parts you have. And you can play with them and prototype and figure out what wheels work best for you. That's really one of my favorite things that compliant wheels and just having more parts allows you to do.
Okay. Sanjay21D asks, is there a belt version of the 6-wheel drive that you can make from the kit?
So you definitely could take a lot of the components from the kit and swap those chains out for belts and pulleys. That would be a really easy swap. With this center distance, you would need to add an idler, which I don't think would be very difficult. That would be fairly simple. And I don't know the belt length off the top of my head, but if you picked up 2 of our 16-tooth set screwed 6mm D-shaft pulleys, I think they're a 34, 13, or 14, that would work really well, and it would be an easy swap. I do really like belt-driven chassis. They're really smooth, and my favorite thing is that they're pretty much set and forget, where you may have to double-check your chain every once in a while to make sure it's the same length. Belts are pretty much always going to be exactly the way you leave them, but they're a lot less flexible. So a big reason we went chain in the master kit is that you can have whatever center distance you need, up to 4 packs of chain, however many meters that is. It gives you a lot of flexibility that you don't quite get with belts. I know we talked about the unboxing. This is a master kit box. It's pretty big. I believe we're over 2,000 parts this year, and I do really hope that the team does an unboxing video. I think that would be really fun to see.
Another question we have coming up here frequently in the chat is Gobilda merch timeline. I can speak to that one real quickly. Soon, without giving exact dates, it's coming. Gobilda merch is coming.
We have a lot of fun things. We have shirts, as you guys have probably seen. We'll have hoodies and some hats as well. So that's super exciting. I really love wearing Gobilda merch, and even if it's just out in the wild and nobody knows what it is, it's still fun, and I'm happy that we got some comfy shirts in too. Let's see. So we've talked a lot about the drivetrains that you can make out of the master kit, and I think that's one of the biggest improvements. But another big improvement, I think, that seems like it might not be from just looking at it, is 4 of the same ratio motors. So that can take away some flexibility depending on how you look at it, but it can also give you some flexibility. So it's especially useful if you want to run a 4-motor drive. Use all 4 of those 312 RPM motors on your drivetrain, but you can create a lot of different ratios with those. The biggest way we can do that in the FTC kit is with gears. So we include those 30-tooth gears, those 32 6D pinning gears. we have 6 of them, which can be really helpful. We also have the 60-tooth gears, which are another great way to do a 1-to-1 ratio, as well as 30-tooth also is a great way to do 1-to-1 ratio. But my favorite ratio, I think, is the really nice 3-to-1 you can get by using the 30-tooth pinion with a 90-tooth spur gear. You can also add an additional one. So you could have 2 stages of 30 to 90, which gets you 180 to 1, which is a really solid ratio to use for arms and other mechanisms that are pretty similar. So if you say have an arm you want to build out of the FTC kit, you can do that even though the motors we include are pretty fast. You can also create ratios with chain. 10 to 14 is not quite as even of a ratio as 3-to-1, but it can be really helpful if you want to be a little different, a little slower, or a little faster. Wheels remained pretty much the same compared to the 1920 kit. You have 4 Omni wheels and 4 Rhino wheels. These are our staple traction wheels and our staple Omni wheels. They've served lots of teams really well, and I think that they're a really great match of being pretty grippy on the FTC tiles without tearing them up, which is a pretty slippery slope as you get into grippier and grippier wheels. Bearing-wise, very similar. Lots of those 1611 non-flanged flanged, mini-flanged bearings. Some 10 mil ID face-through hole pillow blocks. This is one that I get a lot of questions on, actually. That is designed to create different servo blocks with. So the FTC kit includes 4 servos. You've got 2 torque and 2 speed servos, and it also includes all the necessary parts to create 2 servo blocks. So servo blocks are kind of our go-to way of making sure you don't ever break off the output shaft of your servo. You get a lot more rigidity and you get a lot more strength, and that's something that a lot of newer teams honestly struggle with, especially in an FTC kit like this. If you're trying to build a whole robot, you're probably going to rely on servos a fair amount because they give you a lot of flexibility and they're pretty useful. Along with those 2 servos, you also get a servo programmer to be able to adjust the limits or primarily switch them from continuous to positional mode, angular mode. You also get 4 encoder cables. I'm not sure if that's new or not, but those are really helpful, especially when creating arms and lifts and similar things where you want to be able to control the exact position that you run between. A good example is if you have an arm and you really want to move from, say, horizontal to vertical. Using just motor power and a joystick, you can do that, but it's a lot more accurate and repeatable to have an encoder and go from a position to another position. This is most commonly done with PID or PIDF loops. Easiest way is to use the run to position command in the FTC programming software, and after, of course, enabling run using encoders. The other really cool thing you can do is a velocity control. So FTC motors, really DC motors in general, can all vary in top speed from motor to motor. This can, in some applications, especially shooters, this can matter a lot. So a velocity-based encoder control loop will end up making it so you can target an exact speed. Say I want this motor to run at 300 RPM, and it'll do its best to hold 300 RPM even as you add load. It means if you add a little load, it'll only add a little more motor power. But if you add more load, it'll try its best to keep at that RPM. Just like a position PID loop will try its best to hold at a specific position, no matter the stress that you put on it, as long as you're not overloading the motor, of course. Let's see, like we talked about, we've got those 4 312 RPM motors. We've got some servo mounts, really just one for every servo. The servo plates are for those servo blocks that we talked about, and the servo frames are really my favorite, really versatile servo mount. Before we jump into very many more, do we have any more questions from the chat?
Oh, yeah. All right, so Xander Freemaker asks, this is an easy one. will we have Go Builda beanies? That's not slated yet. We have 2 different styles of hats coming, but no beanies yet at this time. Playboy Kill asks about Go Builda tattoos. That's funny because that's something that we've jokingly thrown around there, temporary tattoos, but no, that's not something that's coming to the site anytime soon. Shrey P360 asks which axles come with the kit, Rex or D shaft, and there's 6mm D shaft in the kit. And DevBoy asks, why did you decide to go 2 sets of Omnis and 4 tractions rather than 4 Omni with middle traction on the chassis with the kit?
Sure. So that is a really good question, and part of that comes down to cost. We of course want to make this kit as good price to performance wise as we can, and include lots of components. With Omni wheels, one Omni wheel is about as expensive as a Rhino wheel. So generally you do want to double up Omni wheels, so we would definitely add cost to the kit by going with, say, 8 Omni wheels as opposed to the 4 that you see. Now, that is the kind of practical reason that we did that in the kit, but I think there are a lot of advantages to what's colloquially known as a 4+2 configuration. So that is basically there I'm talking about the number of wheels that are traction and the number of wheels that are Omni wheels in a 6-wheel drive chassis. So a 4+2 means you've got 4 traction wheels and 2 Omni wheels. This is personally my favorite combination of wheels. With a dropped center, it gives you a lot of flexibility. So which side of the robot you put your Omni wheel or your traction wheel on with a dropped center in a 4+2 design depends on where your center of gravity is. As you know, with a drop, we get this little bit of wobble between resting on the Omni wheel and resting with the Rhino wheel. If you put most of the weight of your robot on the side with this Rhino wheel, you won't turn quite as fast because you'll have more turning scrub, but you'll likely get a little more traction. If you put more on the side with your Omni wheel, or you put your Omni on the side with more weight, you'll get, of course, less scrub because of your Omni, and you'll turn faster. In my kind of unscientific tests, it's about a 30% increase in turning RPM, which can be really nice for those really heavy turning games. Just because, say, your weight is on your side with your Omni wheel, just because that's the way it is most of the time doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it'll be when you need traction. When you're pushing another robot, for example, if they're in your way while you're trying to score, if you push with those Omni wheels forward, you'll natively want to rest back on your 4 traction wheels. Even though those won't be on the ground most of the time, you can still lean on that, so as long as you have your Omnis forward while you're pushing somebody, you'll get all of the traction you can out of your chassis and be able to overcome possibly their wheels' traction a little bit easier. So I like it because there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do and what you can play with, and it does also keep the costs down for you guys. But that is one of my favorite questions. I love 4+2s. You're talking about a 2+4, which has Omni wheels on both the front and the back. This is great, especially if you're not doing a dropped center, because you get not very much turning scrub. You don't get the primary advantage of a dropped center, which is a really short track length, but it does reduce your scrub a lot. It'll decrease your traction some compared to a 4+2, but it's a very viable way to go, and 4 more Omni wheels to make a chassis like that is a pretty good upgrade if that's the kind of chassis you want to create. Let's see. It looks like Xander Freemaker from the chat asked, is that cool sticker on the grid plate included in the master kit? That is not. That is included in another kit. You'll have to wait and find out about that one. Let's see. Do we have any other questions?
Yes. Hold on here. So Jules 10355 asks, will Go Builda ever make separate kits for FTC electronics, structure, and motion? We probably not the electronics side, but we do have structure and motion bundles if you go to those sections of the website. Infinite Awesomeness Studio says, does the kit have any belts?
The kit does not have any belts. We talked about it a little bit ago, but chain is really, really versatile. The biggest drawback, I think, with belts is that they are a set length. It's really not possible to modify a belt length to make it fit for your application. So it's not quite as good at prototyping, and it's definitely not as good when you're buying a kit to hopefully build a robot out of it. Now, the master kit at its price point probably won't make a very competitive FTC robot with just those components. We did our best to make it affordable to all teams, but that does mean not including quite as many components as you probably will end up wanting. What we did is we included all the components we think pretty much every Go Build a robot's going to use, and we're hopefully going to add more and more resources to be able to guide teams toward the additional parts they need for their robot in particular. With that, something I wanted to talk about, and I keep forgetting to mention in live shows, is a new program we're going to be starting. I'm super excited about it, and something that's been very popular in FRC that I want to kind of bring over to the FTC world, and it's shirt trading. So we're going to set up a program. If you send us a t-shirt from your team, we will send you a Go Build a t-shirt. Same thing if you send us a hat, we'll send you a Go Build a hat. And bonus points if it's a men's small. I'll try to wear it on a stream at some point. Definitely no guarantees, but I'll for sure wear it around and be able to point out your team. And I'm really excited if you want some Go Build a merch and don't have a use for one of your team shirts. It's a great way for us to support you guys and for you guys to support us. Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit more about the Gecko wheels we're going to be giving away. So those are, we did have a whole show on this. You can check it out at twitch.tv/GoBuildaTV. I highlighted that today, so you'll be able to watch that whole show with a lot more information about intakes and rollers and shooters, and a lot of really nice information that's just good to know when you're doing FTC. I think intakes are used pretty much every year by a lot of those really competitive teams, and it's something that's really, information about intakes is very game specific, so we're hopefully going to be able to play with the new elements for the game and talk about how you can use those wheels in your FTC game and future streams. So definitely stick around and keep watching future streams. We're going to be trying to do these every Friday at 4 Central and get into a little bit more of a groove, and we hope you guys will hang out with us and continue to grow this channel. Let's see. I think a lot of this stream is going to be questions from you guys about the new Master Kit. Jason, do we have any more?
We do have some more. Based on some of the comments in there, I just wanted to throw out there that one of the new merch items that is coming are Go Build a hoodies. I don't think we mentioned that the first time around. There's been a lot of chit chat about the super massive bundle conspiracy. And yeah, you caught us, guys. We're just doing some testing. It's just for fun. So nothing really going on there. Ooh. Look away. But yeah, that was just some testing. Trash Panda 950 asks, are there any plans for Go Build a Odometry kit?
So that's something that we definitely get some requests for. It's hard for a team, for us to create a kit that would work for every team for sure. And it's generally a little outside of our wheelhouse to make kits that are kind of as closed as that one would be. I think that there definitely are components in GoBuilder that you can use to create odometry, and of course your 3D printer is probably going to be your best friend when creating systems like that. Definitely take a look at Open Odometry and Go RevDom. Those are both some fun open source projects that are people creating odometry that is hopefully going to fit in this 43mm inside of Go Build a channel.
Andrew 15887 asks, do the kits come with stickers? I can say for at least a limited time, we'll be sending some stickers out with some of the kits, so maybe you'll get lucky. Extra Battery 2 says, is the master kit by itself a viable option for prototyping?
I think it's a really very viable option for prototyping, especially with a lot of teams going remote this year and trying to do as much work as possible from home. I've heard of a couple teams who are planning to buy a master kit and ship it around to different team members so they can build stuff in prototype. That is a big focus we had when we were designing the master kit this year, is to make it so you can have a lot of different components and as much flexibility as possible in order to do as much prototyping as possible, while still being fairly portable and still being something that you can continue to reuse. With that comes in a pretty nice box, so you should be able to reuse a lot of that if you need to transport it from one member's house to another. Prototyping is always a focus of FTC, especially for me and teams that I work with. It's the best way to learn things about the game, learn things about the elements, and most importantly, learn things about robotics and mechanics. So it's always a really good thing to focus on in your FTC team.
All right, so there have been some questions of where they should send their shirts to. I just dropped our address in the chat. So it's 1134 Hoosier Street, Winfield, Kansas 67156. Yeah. Anything more you want to say to that end on the shirts?
Not really, besides I'm excited to be able to decorate a wall at least with some team shirts. That'll be really fun to be able to have more merchandise around of all of you guys and get more shirts from us out to you guys.
Is there any official start to that, or can they start right away?
Start whenever you want, and I don't know of a projected end date, but definitely get your shirts in as soon as possible in case we get a ton and everybody's like, no, we can't do this anymore. But I don't think that's going to happen.
I've had one question here. Cookie Hero 289 asks, can I send in a hoodie and get to go build a hoodie in return?
Sure, that sounds good to me.
All right.
Let's see. Yeah, so I think we've gone over a lot of the parts of the master kit. We can kind of look at those a little closer real fast. We can scroll through. We've got those servo mounts that we talked about a little bit. You've also got a battery mount, a battery, and a charger. Really great thing to start off with. You may want to purchase additional batteries depending on how much current your robot draws. So really heavier duty or higher current draw motors, especially higher current draw applications like lifts and drivetrains, can end up draining batteries faster. So one robot may be able to run 3 matches on one battery, but another one may drain a battery down pretty far in one match. The number of batteries that you need will also depend some on what your standards are, basically. Some teams want them charged absolutely full every time so they can be as fast as possible right off the start. A lot of that really, really high voltage is a surface current or surface voltage, so it won't last very long. Really past that 12 volt mark, as you get into the 13s and 14s, you get voltage that'll make your motors run very fast, but it won't last nearly as long as voltage or the current in the standard operating range of the batteries. Like we talked about, there's a lot of channel. This year we've also added some 1120 channel, whereas last year's kit was all based on low side. The low side U channel is one of my favorite GoBuilda components. It's one of the things that made me really start to love GoBuilda a couple of years ago, and it is still something that I think is really great for mechanisms on top of your frame, but more channel does help a lot if you're building chassis and other kind of structural components. You've also got some Go Rail, which is not very, very nice and very flexible. We've also changed a little bit. Last year's kit, we had more beams, a lot more different kinds of beams. This year, we've pretty much narrowed it down to 3. We've got U-beams, we've got L-beams, and we've got flat beams. These are really great price to performance wise, and they still give you a lot of variation on what you can do while being pretty affordable and helping us keep those costs down. Brackets and mounts, we've got a bunch of them. They're useful a lot of the time. My favorite ones gotta be the 1201-43-2, the quad block pattern mount. It's great. It's used all over the time, or all over the place all the time. Some dual blocks are awesome when you're using low side U channel. And another one of my favorite brackets is the 1114. I call it the Symbiotics bracket. It's really useful as well. We've also got some standoffs and spacers and some pattern spacers, chain and sprockets, wheels, bearings, shafting, and hubs and couplers. So something you probably will notice, and I think you can see here in these renders, is that some of our hubs have gone through a running change where we've increased the protrusion on those hub from 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters as we are increasing the what we call bearing counterbores on our parts, where you've got a 16 millimeter circle that's nested into a part. Having a 2 millimeter protrusion as opposed to a 1 millimeter protrusion helps you use that centering ability of that 14 millimeter protrusion a little bit better. We also changed our collars over to a bigger and beefier and nicer design. They now use M4 hardware, which is really convenient if you're trying to have primarily one hex key. They also have an integrated shim now, so you will not need a shim, say, between this bearing inside of this channel and this collar right here, which is nice. It's a little simpler, and that shim can get missed sometimes, and that shim will be really sorely missed if you don't end up including it. The rest of the components are fairly straightforward. You've got some tools and screws and some zip ties and other things like that. Let's see. Probably do a few more questions.
Yeah, several people are asking about when promotions will start for teams. We are launching several team promotions during the kickoff season, so just keep your eye on the website for that.
Mm-hmm. So we are doing even more for FTC teams this year, which is really exciting, and it's something that we're really happy to be able to continue to do and just give back to this community. It's really my favorite part of working here.
Andrew 15887 asks, if we send Techic's channel, will GoBuilder return GoBuilder channel?
We can't do that yet. It's something we would love to be able to do, but we can really only do merch, at least right now.
Gaming Stand-Up Sesame says, will you accept pins as well? I'm assuming that's referring to the shirts deal.
I could definitely send you stickers if you send us some pins, but we don't have any pins to trade back, unfortunately. So if you'd like, you can always ask for some additional stickers in your order. I'm sure we'd be able to throw some in. And a lot of people even asking for signatures from some people here. We're happy to as well. Let's see.
Infinite Awesomeness Studio says, does any of the merch say go build it or go home? Unfortunately, no. Right now, we've kind of we're launching with a standard line, and we've got the Go Build It logo on a variety of things. So we're starting simple.
Mm-hmm. I know Mecha Muffin asked in the chat if there are even whole count low side U channels. There are. That's another thing that we launched. So we've also got everywhere from 2 whole up to 18 whole. Now you can get any increment of 24 millimeter low side U channel and also a full U channel.
Stealth Biplane asks, can I drive a 12-volt motor with the element control system? And while that's kind of outside the realms of FTC, yes, you can, but you would need more than just the receiver. You would need a motor controller that can take that PWM signal from the receiver and drive a motor with it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And we do sell some of those on our website. You can check out the motor controllers page for more into that. We sell RoboClaws, which are super powerful, and they are really solid for kind of the yellow jacket motors. You can drive servos directly off of that receiver. So if you, say, get a Go Build a servo, flip it over to continuous rotation mode, and plug it into a receiver with some power, you can get something that resembles a motor, but to run a full motor, you would need a motor controller. Let's see.
C4 Glenn asks, when will you be releasing the PNG of the sticker to use as a decal in CAD? I'll do you one better, Glenn. If you go to the site, the logo at the top of the page is vector. It's a SVG, so you can right-click and download that, and you'll be able to bring it into your CAD pretty easily, depending on what you're using for your CAD.
Yep, and then you can create stickers for all your really fancy renders and all of the stuff that you new FTC students do as well. So that's really exciting.
Apparently, somebody's asking about the motor stickers, and maybe that's what the original question was really alluding to. Perhaps either way. Yeah, we don't have that out there anywhere right now, but we can look into that.
If that's something you want, definitely shoot us an email.
Yes.
You can find me at tech@gobuilda.com, and I'll do some looking into that and get back to you as soon as I can. With that, I'm sure there's going to be some questions that we won't be able to get to in the chat or that you guys will think of afterward. Feel free to give us a call or send us an email. I'm tech@gobuilda.com. You can also find me over on the FTC Discord and discord.gg/first-tech-challenge. Over there, I am Ethan D. And I can't remember all the numbers off the top of my head. You can also find me over on r/FTC as gobuilda_Ethan. And there are some things where giving us a call is definitely the easiest. So our phone number is 620-705-5959. And you can always ask for Ethan, or anybody up here in tech will be happy to help you out.
Stealth Biplane asks, will the FTC kit come with build instructions for the various drivetrains?
Yes, so that's something we're working on, finalizing right now, and we're hoping to get published very soon. With that, we'll also include CAD of the various drivetrains, likely the 3 major versions. Technically, I suppose there are 9 variations you could create, but we'll include the 3 that you can see renders of on the website, and you'll be able to take those and modify it as you need to.
We've had somebody ask if the entire FTC robot can be built with just the master kit. This is a rookie team asking.
So it depends on kind of how much robot you want. The master kit is something that we really want to make affordable to every team that can jump in and maybe do a little fundraising, but be able to jump into GoBuilda. With that requirement, sometimes we may not be able to include all of the components you would need for a full-featured robot that would make you to World's Finals. We think that you can definitely create something that's pretty competitive with it, especially if you combine it with some custom-made components. Pretty much every game will require some outside-of-the-box thinking, and we do our best, but a lot of FTC robots can't be created with just GoBuilda. So a 3D printer is a great thing to add on to your FTC repository. What we did when we created the FTC kit was we looked at a lot of robots and said, what are the components almost everybody uses? And what are the things that you can create most of a robot with, or a lot of a robot with? And then we added a lot of those to a kit along with some really solid drivetrains. So it is possible you won't be able to create the greatest robot in the world, but it'll be a really great place to get up and going and start creating something that'll be able to play the game.
Ant-Man7 is asking about the T-shirt exchange, how he could specify what size that he wants to return back.
So the easiest way would probably be just a note in the box that you send. If you just say, hey, I would like this size, we'll do our best to send it back over to you. So yeah, our master kit, I think that's a lot of the big things. We did change a lot this year from our last year's kit. You got a little less like a variety kit and a little more focused toward the FTC, toward chassis, and toward creating full robots. So we're really excited. I think we're 8 days away from kickoff now. So that's going to be super exciting. We do have an announcement coming pretty soon, so we'll have some more details on some really exciting things we're going to be doing right after kickoff. So definitely make sure you give us a follow and keep in the loop about what we're going to be doing over at over at GoBuilda. You can always follow us on Instagram. We have a Twitter and a Facebook. We're at GoBuilda, all of those places, and we'll make sure to do some posts and stuff before we go live with any further streams. So that's a great way to keep in touch. All right. If you guys have any last questions before we let you go, definitely put them in the chat. Tag at GoBuildATV pretty fast, and we're probably going to start wrapping up real soon here. Let's see. Do we have any other questions from the chat right now?
Oh yeah, there's always more questions. File type null, that's a great handle, asks about the approximate shipping time for the kit. We're looking into doing an RI 24-hour robot in 24 hours, and being able to use GoBot for the Gobola parts for the robot would be lovely. We're centrally located in Kansas here, so it depends obviously on what shipping option you choose, but if you drop that in your cart and go to checkout, it should get you a pretty good idea.
And one thing to note is that we do have a long weekend. We'll be back on Tuesday because of Labor Day. So anything you place over the weekend or on Monday will end up shipping out most likely by noon on Tuesday. So you may want to look at choosing a little bit of a faster option if you're hoping to get it by next Friday. But if you do end up doing that and you do get your kit before kickoff, please send us videos and pictures and whatever you can to tech@gobuilda.com. Tag us on Instagram and Facebook and all of that stuff. We really love seeing robots you guys create, especially early in the season, because it helps us see what we're doing right, what we can improve on, and it's always fun to just see what you guys are making.
It's been asked a couple times now whether or not we're going to do bulk discounts for the Servo block bundle.
Definitely send us an email to sales@gobuilda.com if you've got questions about bulk orders. If you're buying a bunch of something, they'll be your best contact to be able to make sure you get a good deal on whatever you're getting. That is for sure. I'm pretty far removed from that process, so I don't know anything past that, but shoot them an email. They'll be able to help you out.
And the expiration for the Gecko wheel code, it is limited to the people that are live watching us today. And as far as how long that code will work, I'm just getting word now. It'll be live for an hour after the feed.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you're following and that you can you type that keyword of wheel in the chat. We'll be able to double check and make sure you're followed our channel before we end up sending out any wheels, and it'll just be one per team. But yeah, I think that the exact details on those may get tweaked a little bit. We'll send you an email as soon as we can once you fill out that form and get you all of the details on getting your free wheel. Let's see here. I know it's been asked a couple times if there are any requirements for shirts. I would say definitely better condition is better. If it's not a good representation of your team, it may not look very great if it's hanging up on a wall for pictures or in the background of a stream or whatever. I will say I'll definitely will prioritize new ones if I end up wearing them on a stream. So that would help a lot if you want some recognition from your team. But we really just want to be able to show off that a lot of you guys follow us and want to be involved, and also be able to get a lot of merch out to you guys. So let's see. Chief with Beef asked if I can sign his forehead if I see him in person. Sure. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but hopefully you'll still be around in FTC as things start getting back to normal and physical events start happening again. But if that happens, I will definitely do my best.
He also asks if they can claim two wheels if they're on two teams, which, yeah, if you fill out the form twice, if you've got two teams and two team numbers, that's legit.
For sure. All right, well, I think we've gone over a lot of stuff today about our new master kit, some new channel, and a lot of really fun promotions. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out. Tech@gobuilda.com is the best way to reach me. and you can always call in. You can follow us on social media at GoBuilda pretty much everywhere, and shoot us messages if you want to there as well. Follow the stream to make sure you get notified when we're going to go live again. And with that, we'll see you guys later.